नमस्कार, स्वागत आहे आपलं लँटन मराठीमध्ये. आज आपण युरोपात जाणार आहोत. आज आंबेडकर जयंती, डॉक्टर बाबासाहेब आंबेडकरांची जयंती आहे आणि डॉक्टर बाबासाहेब आंबेडकरांच्या जयंतीनिमित्त आज आपण एक वेगळा कार्यक्रम घेऊन आलेलो आहे. जसं भारतामध्ये दलित चळवळ एक मोठा इतिहास आहे आणि दलित चळवळीला असं भारतामध्ये स्वतंत्र ओळख सांगण्याची गरज नाही. परंतु अशीच एक दलित चळवळ म्हणजे जी भारतातल्या दलितांशी निगडीत केली जाऊ शकते. अशी एक चळवळ चालू झाली आहे युरोपमध्ये. युरोप मधील हंगेरी या देशामध्ये. हंगेरी या देशामध्ये रो रोमा म्हणून एक कम्युनिटी आहे. त्या रोमा कम्युनिटीला जसं इथल्या दलितांवरती अन्याय झाले होते किंवा त्या सिमिलर प्रकारचे अन्याय युरोपमधील रोमा कम्युनिटीवरती होत आहेत, आजही होत आहेत. आणि या विरुद्ध लढा चालू केला तो मिस्टर टिबोर यांनी, डेरेडेक टिबोर. त्यांच्यासोबत मिस्टर जानोस देखील आहेत. या दोघांनी मिळून जय भीम नेटवर्क किंवा जय भीम संघ अशी एक संस्था चालू केली. त्या संस्थेच्या अंतर्गत त्यांनी डॉक्टर आंबेडकर स्कूल देखील चालू केलं युरोपमध्ये, हंगेरीमध्ये. तर त्यांचा हा प्रवास कसा होता, डॉक्टर बाबासाहेब आंबेडकरांचा त्यांचा परिचय कसा झाला, म्हणजे त्यांच्या विचारांचा, आणि आज तिथली परिस्थिती काय आहे हे आपण मिस्टर टिबोर यांच्याकडून जाणून घेण्याचा प्रयत्न करूयात. मिस्टर टिबोर, वेलकम टू लँटन मराठी. जय हिंद.
Jai Bhim.
So I would like to know how you got introduced to Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar. What is your movement of Roma community? If I'm not wrong, it is about 10 million people in Roma people in Eastern Europe. So how there was a discrimination? Is that discrimination exists today also? What is educational condition? What is financial condition? And how Roma people are overcoming all these hurdles in their life?
Yes. I myself began to work with Roma communities at the beginning of the 90s, so many years ago. And I'm a teacher, so I wanted to work in Roma communities in villages where I observed that after 6, 7, 8 classes, youngsters don't go further. Nobody goes to secondary education, nobody goes to higher education. So this is a form of oppression, of course, when members of a certain community cannot reach to secondary and higher education. And I, as a teacher, wanted to get my students higher. So this was the situation at the beginning of the 90s, when I became a member of the Hungarian parliament. And this new situation for me gave the possibility to organize something to change the situation. And we tried to find international models, how to improve the school career of our youngsters. And India was the best example for us. India was the country where we found a good system to help families, to help youngsters who want to leave the oppressed social situation. I went several times to India. I met many experts and activists and communities who work in this field, and it was really a very, very good example for us to organize our structure here in Hungary. So the first word I have to say about is thank you, our friends in India, because without you we couldn't organize a good network of schools and organizations to help these people, these oppressed youngsters.
Okay, so how did you got introduced to Dr. Baba Sahib Ambedkar and his thought? When you came to know about Dr. Baba Sahib Ambedkar, how you got inspired by him, and when you started this schooling?
Yes, uh, I was a member of several Buddhist organizations already at the beginning of the 90s. But when Western Europeans or Europeans, Western people, get acquaintance with Buddhism and with India, it's we didn't have the possibility to find any information about Ambedkarite movement at that time. We didn't know anything about Dr. Ambedkar at the beginning of the 90s. India was important already at that time for us because Roma community comes from India. 600 years ago, an ethnic group arrived from the southeast, from India to Europe, and these people were darker skin than European people and came from India. So people now in Europe know very well that Roma people are related to India, that the ancestors of Roma people came from India. So India was already important for us in the 90s, but when we learned about the movement of Dr. Ambedkar, it was a real revelation for us. It was a book, a French book, a book of a French expert, Christophe Jaffrelot, which opened our eyes to the Ambedkarite movement. It was a very scholarly book about the life of Dr. Ambedkar and about the history of his movement. And whenever we could read this book, we were sure that we will have good friends in India, but we didn't know how to find them. And this was an international Buddhist movement which led us to our Indian friends. The TBMSG, Trailokya Bauddha Mahasangha movement. It exists in Western Europe also, Western Buddhist order. So we got contact with them, and they introduced us, our Indian partners, in 2006. It was a big retreat in Nagpur. We were invited to Nagpur, and it was a great feeling for us to meet thousands of very active activists who are really fighting for their emancipation, their human rights. It was great to meet that movement, and from that moment when we met the Ambedkarite movement in India, we got our inspiration to organize a new high school. We named after Dr. Ambedkar, and we kept these new relations, these new friendships uh, to Nagpur and Pune and Bombay and Aurangabad and other cities and towns in India, in Wardha, for example. So we could visit our new friends in these cities and towns, and we learned a lot from our Indian friends how to organize a real movement to help the social uplifting of our oppressed students here in Eastern Europe.
So, how far is your goal to achieve equality, education, financial equality? So, what you find, where are Roma people right now, and how long they have to travel?
Uh, you have to know, in Eastern European countries, these 10 million Roma people who live in Romania, Ukraine, Slovakia, Hungary, Bulgaria, Serbia, and so on. In these countries, they lack political representation. They don't have any political representation. If you go to any national parliament of these countries, you will not find any uh, Roma members of parliament in these countries. Uh, if you go to local municipal council, you will not find any Roma members in local governments. So without political representation, you can imagine that it is not possible to represent the interests of the community. And this is the same situation in high schools and universities. If you go to any Hungarian high school, you will not find uh, Roma students in high schools, whereas 5% of the Hungarian population was already Roma 20 years ago, but now 8% of the Hungarian population is Roma. And they don't go to secondary education at all in Hungary, in Slovakia, in Romania, in these countries. So our first step was to convince the teachers in these segregated schools in villages mainly to send Roma youngsters to secondary education. We could find committed families, committed parents who wanted to see their kids in secondary education, and we began to work with them already at the beginning of the 90s. But without a good example, it's difficult to make this work. But when we could have many friends in India who came from poor families, sometimes from families where parents and grandparents are illiterate or practically illiterate, and they became highly educated intellectuals, teachers, lawyers, microbiologists, policemen, and so on. It was a great feeling for us because these careers, of course, the first story is Dr. Ambedkar's story, and many stories from the movement, which are similar stories, starting from misery, from oppression, and arriving higher education and responsible jobs. So it gave us a great momentum, and now we try to follow this path, and we are very successful in this work. We are very proud of our youngsters who come from very poor families, where nobody thought about secondary education and higher education, and they are now in universities, and they are as good as other university students from much better family situation.
Absolutely, sir. For all this work, you need strong financial support. So, how are you managing all these financial things? Where are you getting support from? Are you getting support from society, government, or any other source? How are you managing all these things to run a school, to provide a meal for students, all these activities? So, how are you managing this?
Yes, this is a struggle. I have to recognize it's not easy. Um, there is no um, how do you call in English this system, what was established from the Pune Pact, for example.
Recognition or affirmative action?
Yeah. But there is a word in English what I hear always in India. Um,
Reservations?
reservation system. Yes, reservation system. Yes, reservation system does not exist in Eastern European countries. It's a task for us, a political task to arrive to have our Pune Pact here in Eastern Europe. We have to struggle for that many years, I guess. But of course, European political responsibles know that they should do something to ensure higher representation of oppressed youngsters in secondary and higher education. So, of course, we can always uh, call for uh, affirmative action in the Hungarian society, and of course, in the government, we can always find some people, some responsible people who can help our struggle. And there are ordinary people who donate money to help these youngsters. So we can always organize a financial background for our work. The teachers of Dr. Ambedkar high schools are paid by the Hungarian government, and the buildings we can use, we can buy with donors' help, with private people who give money to buy and to renovate buildings. And we have to give scholarships and even food to our students, even train tickets and bus tickets, because these families are not able to pay traffic fares for longer studies. But we could always find our partners in the Hungarian society who help us. It's not easy. We have to write a lot of articles in the Hungarian press. We have to give a lot of interviews to Hungarian televisions and radios, but we can find the people who support our work.
So, how many schools are currently running? You are running how many schools? And
Um,
at what level?
at the beginning, we began our work in small villages. It's uh, uh, not natural, not very usual thing to you to run a secondary school in a village. But uh, these are villages where majority of population are very poor, many children, many youngsters, and they don't really leave their rural ghettos. They don't go to cities and towns. So we have to go there with our school program. This was the story of the first decades of our work, but 6 years ago we could buy a new building. No, it was an old building, but we are renovating it in Mishkol city, which is a great step because uh, many families uh, learned already that our school is a possibility for the young generation of their families, their community, and they sent their youngsters to Mishkol city, to our dormitory and our school. Hungarian government gave a building of dormitory, and some rich people from London, Hungarian rich people from London, gave enough money to buy a school building. And now a bank, the biggest bank in Hungary, made an action to donate small amounts of money, but many people donated, so we could renovate the old building. So these are small steps, but a steady progress.
Absolutely. Your work when you started this in 90s and today you have started schools. This is a journey where you brought very different kind of what you can say a self-respect or dignity among the Roma people. So you try to inflame that dignity, value of dignity, self-respect. This journey is not very short. It's going to take a long time, but you have at least started this journey and brought it to a certain level where now you are people are getting to know about you, your work, and people are getting associated with you. So from our entire Lantern team, I would like to wish you and your work all the best for your future. Hope all the Roma people will be able to come in mainstream and get educated, their life get equality as like other people in Europe. So we would like to wish this Ambedkar Jayanti all the best to you. And thank you for your valuable time to tell about Roma people, your struggle. Hope this information will help for your movement. People from Maharashtra, Marathi speaking people will try to celebrate Ambedkar Jayanti in different way by helping people globally. Because now celebration of Ambedkar Jayanti in Maharashtra particularly is become a kind of festival. But true value of Dr. Ambedkar will be reflected if they help such kind of movements. So I would like to appeal all people over Maharashtra to donate to celebrate Ambedkar Jayanti by helping this type of movement. Thank you very much, Mr. Tigo, for your valuable time.
Thank you, and Jai
Jai
Bhim to everyone.
Jai.
Jai Bhim.
तर हे होते हंगेरीमधून डेरेक टिमोर आणि आपण पाहिलं की त्यांचा जो रोमा समाजाचा जो प्रवास आहे तो कसा झालेला आहे आणि त्यांनी आता ज्या लेवलला त्यांचा हा स्ट्रगल आहे त्याला आणखी बराच काळ पुढे जायचं आहे. परंतु या आजच्या दिनी आंबेडकर जयंतीनिमित्त आपण या समाजाला मुख्य प्रवाहात येण्यासाठी शुभेच्छा देऊ शकतो आणि आपण थांबूया तिथे. तुम्हाला हा कार्यक्रम कसा वाटला ते अवश्य आम्हाला कळवा. थँक्यू व्हेरी मच. पाहत रहा लालटेन मराठी.